Hi, I'm Dana Abramovitz, 7 Investing Lead Advisor. We're here to empower you to invest in your future. And I'm talking today with Altomari, who is CEO of Agile Therapeutics. Welcome, Al. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dana. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk to you about Agile Therapeutics. I know that you're focused on women's health. I'm a woman. Women's, healthcare in general is important to me, but certainly, women's health. And so, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what Agile Therapeutics does, and a little bit, more about your story.
Great. Sounds great. Let's have a good conversation.
So can you tell me a little bit more about Agile Therapeutics and like the type of area that you've been focused in and what exactly you guys do?
Sure. So Agile Therapeutics is, like you said, we are a women's healthcare company. So think of us as an investor. I guess I'll put an investor's perspective. Think of us as the way maybe Warner, Chilcott, or Allergan's first started. We want to be a company that both develops drugs, identifies drugs that are important to women, but ultimately market the drugs, and bring them to market. So we see ourselves in that space of being drug developers first, regulatory people, and then ultimately commercial people. So I can't see us really doing really basic drug discovery. I don't think that's our capability, nor it should be. So we want to identify important drugs for women. Probably it's therapeutics or drugs. We've also considered whether we look at devices, say, because that's a big part of women's health. I think we could probably get our mind around that. I doubt we'll be a consumer company. I just think that's a whole different competency. I can't see us being so I think we want to be a therapeutic company, maybe a device company, serving the needs of women, and more than likely through her OBGYN. So most of these drugs and most of these treatments go through OBGYN. So I think that's what we see Agile Therapeutics in, addressing unmet needs, developing therapeutics or devices, and serving a woman in partnership with more than likely her OBGYN. So that's where we see our mission. And we've chosen contraception as our first stop along that journey, because that was the way the company was founded. It was founded with a patch technology or transdermal patch that was developed here in New Jersey, and that went on to be Agile Therapeutics. So in contraception, we think is an important market. It's a big market. It's probably the most, on a volume base or dollars basis, probably one of the biggest markets to tackle, but that's not the reason we did it. We saw there was unmet needs. So we said our product fits unmet needs. So it's sort of a win-win for us. We said, that's our first product. Let's cut our teeth there and let's go after a big market with real innovation, and we're still needs in the marketplace. So that's how we got to contraception as our first target. But hopefully as we grow, we'll be in other areas of medicine or other therapeutic categories besides contraception.
Nice. Yeah. You said something about, the market and focusing on women, and, certainly, contraception is really important. But then also, like understanding your market and, the convenience, and as being, somebody who has taken various forms of birth control in my life, having a patch and something that you don't have to think about or worry about, as frequently. Right. Taking a daily pill, just fits the lifestyle of women. And so, and it's interesting that you had talked about, the patch and then moving into the area of a medical device. And so it'd be interesting to see how you figure in, just kind of the needs of women, your right. customers, to give them what they need.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, contraception, is an important field. I mean, I was privileged enough to run J&J's business. It was a business called Ortho. So little secret. It was the biggest company inside J&J at the time. It was the biggest women's healthcare company in the world, sitting inside the world's biggest baby company. So think of that as an irony. So, but when I was there, I learned a lot about this market. I mean, and how important, because these choices for women are important. I am not a woman, so it's hard. I try to relate through the market research and having a really understanding the market. But these are fundamentally the most important choices women make about their pregnancies, if they want to get pregnant someday. But when, where, and it has such far-reaching implications to a woman with her career, her not economic future. So, and then the data, I think the data, Dana, that's stuck in my head and it's been there for years is that 50% of the pregnancies with young women are thought to be untimed, or, that's an important metric in my head, because that tells me that these drugs may not be perfect yet. Something's not right. If you use these drugs properly, and every day, or in our case, once a week, they're virtually flawless. I mean, these are close to as 100% medicine as you get. I mean, so to say, well, 50% failure rate of these products tells us there's something not right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the family planning community thinks that the drug that you select at this moment of your life is the one you'll more than likely use right. And if it's a pill, it's a pill. If it's a patch, it's a patch. If it's a vaginal ring, it's a vaginal ring. I mean, so giving you choices that you buy into that fit your lifestyle at that moment is the winning recipe. But what we're finding is the pills aren't the answer. And as somebody who marketed pills for a living, we were the market leader. I mean, we sold 40 to 50% of the pills in the country when I was running that business were from us. Almost half the market we owned. So we were the leader. So, and then we learned it's not working. So that's what we learned.
Yeah.
So that's the problem we're trying to solve for women, giving women choices, giving good choices, fitting that need for something other than a daily therapy, and giving the woman comfort that it's the right choice for her.
Yeah. Good. And, I like that you recognize that you're not a woman, but, I know that, you recently announced a partnership with a very strong woman, who is advocating for women's health and, listening to, the female population to really understand their needs. And, how are you taking that into consideration as you're, moving your business?
Yeah, I mean, not being a woman, you better be a good listener then, because you got to learn the market, right? No, but we're proud. I mean, it starts with the leadership of the company, the women that make the people that make the day-to-day decisions in my company. Marketing this, my head of marketing, Amy Welsh, my head of sales, Laura. I mean, I'm surrounded with some of the best and brightest women executives that I think are extremely talented. I say my job is to be to raise, as and you've been in these shoes, and you help develop the strategy for the company, you help raise money for the company, you capitalize the company, and hope you surround yourself with great people. So we take pride in our executive leadership. My board wasn't very diverse when we went public, and there's a long reason for that, but it's still unacceptable. So that's changed. 4 of our 7 board members are now female, which we're very proud of. And then also, as not being in the target myself, I better listen to the market research and put people like Pandia around me that really have a better. So we have a good reach of both market research, partnerships, so that we hear the voices of women. And again, I think we're doing a good job there. But it took us a while. It took us a while to build the diversity in the company and build the platform of the company. But we got there. And my job is to keep it there.
Good for you. That makes me happy. That makes me happy to hear. I
have but it's I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have 2 daughters, that are in the workforce right now. I don't have sons. I have daughters, so this is deeply personal to me too. I mean, I want the world to be hopefully a more inviting place than it was when I first started for both men and women. So this, this is just a little, besides a product, it's on a personal level. So I think seeing my daughters develop, my one daughter's an entrepreneur, and building her own business, and which is fantastic. And my other daughter's works in a corporate setting, and her husband's an entrepreneur. So I have this blend of seeing the new generation of women move forward, and hopefully we leave the world a better place for the next generation.
Nice. I love that you said that, because, people who have seen me, talk about my different recommendations know that, I really like companies that are working to make the world a little bit better. So, love that, that's important to you as well. And that's something that you're working towards.
We're chipping away at it. Wewe're chipping away at it little by little. We're getting there.
That's all we can do. That
Right.
really is all that we can do. And even having conversations like we are now, so that people know that know about you and know about Agile Therapeutics, and know that you are trying to make the world a better place. You did talk about, or you mentioned partnerships. And so
Mhm.
just, like expanding into the biotech space and, in general, so the industry in which you're in, are a lot of partnerships happening? What is going on in the market in general, especially in, a post-COVID landscape, the partnerships, consolidation, where do you
Yeah.
see, us now and moving into the future?
Well, I'm privileged to be not only at Agile, but I sit as a director on two other publicly traded companies. So, what I like in these companies, I should say, what I like is, I love these young biotech companies that are, grew up as, say, R&D companies that want to say, should I commercialize? Shouldn't I commercialize? I love that decision point of time when these come up to that crossroads and saying, what do I want to be when I grow up? In Agile's case, we decided to launch a product, but so I love those decisions. So I think what I see in biotech in general is that most companies, including ourselves, realize we can't and shouldn't be building a lot of overhead. We're just basically, a lot of us are one product companies. So we use a more of a virtual model, so first of all, in our case, like our sales force is rented. I hate to say it, this sounds impersonal, but it's a rented sales force, because we don't want that infrastructure just yet. We can't afford it, so that's number one. I think selecting the infrastructure partners is critically important, and saying, what do we want to do? What do we want to be good at? We want to be good at drug development. We want to be good at, financing the company. We want to be good at marketing. Everything else we'll partner. So I think that putting together the mosaic of the right partnerships for your company, I think is the first thing. And then to execute your plan, for us, with somebody like Pandya, Dr. Yen is phenomenal. Her charisma and we just fell in love with her. She's a woman executive. I believe she's the first woman that started a telemedicine business. She's a doctor herself. So we're going to grow with her. They're small. Everybody says, why don't you go one of the bigger people? Because I get lost in the big places, so we're equal size. We're going to grow together. And we have a commitment to, grow. And so I think selecting the right partners in biotech is also critically important. Are you a good cultural match? We have another partnership with Sterling, that actually helps in distributing the drugs. So if a doctor wants if a patient wants the drug delivered to their home, we tell doctors, just send it to us. But right now insurance is tough, for young companies. So Sterling can help us, the insurance side and making sure the patients get paid. So we just pick our battles, if you will. What do we do, and surround ourselves with a network of great people that believe in our mission and that we can grow with. So I think that's the trick in biotech. Like, what do you want to be yourself? What do you want to partner with, and picking your partners? And I think the biotech companies that have done that successfully, have proven to be great, ultimately the better model. And then as you grow and get bigger, maybe you bring in some of this, these services yourself, and you can do things more yourself. But I advocate for do less at the beginning. Do less yourself. Rely on other people's partnerships. They might have more experience in the marketplace. Our contract sales force came from Syneos, right? Syneos has got, thousands of reps on the street, hundreds of contracts. What makes me think I could hire reps as fast and as good as them? But more real is what were they dealing with COVID that we can learn from? So not only it's the partnership, but it's the advice you get from these partners, Dana, that's also equally as great. So I think biotechs is a business of being virtual, generally, startup biotechs, with a core of great management at the center of it, and that they're outsourcers, and then they pick partnerships that help enhance their business model. So I think the more we can kind of leave our egos to the side and build partnerships, I think the better we're going to be. Then walk before you run. Cut your teeth, and then if you want to get bigger, bring someone else inside, then do it from a position of strength and knowledge, not because your ego says to do it. If that
Really,
makes sense.
I really like that. And it's just so, I'm a startup person myself.
Mhm.
Normally really early stage, so really small. But that same level of thinking of, I can only do so much, right? I have to choose where I want to go. and I only have so many resources, and so finding those partnerships to best utilizes the resources that you have. And I love that you're taking all of that into consideration as you're managing the overall business. It sounds like it's very well run, which is great. So kudos to you for
No,
doing it.
but we can get better. We can always get better. One of the things that, I don't know, you probably do the same too, is like, I don't know, I'm quick to call other CEOs and probably, look for best practices, ideas. I mean, when I'm on somebody else's board, I am just learning as much as I'm giving. And when people are on my board, I'd like to think the same thing. So I think one of the things I find interesting, I don't know if you would agree, but I think the biotech community is incredibly collaborative. Like when I was at J&J, if I called one of my competitors, I'd probably walk to the door because I did something wrong. Not here. I call my competitors, my partners, other people with other fields, and we're always exchanging ideas and best practices and people and vendors or suppliers and who do you use for this. It's incredibly collaborative. Again, I think the best leadership teams are the ones that have humility. They pick up the phone and ask for help.
Yep.
So, I mean, we don't have all the answers. So we don't have it. So we're really quick to be out there with our peers and look for ideas. So we don't have the corner on ideas. And then we pivot. We're good at pivoting. We're like, that didn't work. Let's pivot. As you probably see in these young companies, you gotta have the humility to say, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Let's try something different. Or it is working, then let's play odd hands. Let's play odd hands.
Yeah, no, and it's nice. So I'm actually a scientist by training, and just that collaborative nature, just like we're all kind of working together to find an answer. And so it's nice to hear that that it's still happening in the biotech industry, and that people are collaborating. And I think that goes like just in terms of science and scientific research, and the way things are peer reviewed, and conferences, and just sharing data and publishing, and just all of that kind of helps create that environment. But it's good. And again, trying to make the world a better place, realizing that you can't necessarily do it by yourself, and you need that help and that partnership. So I'm just going to switch now to, like where we are in the market. So, me personally, 7 Investing focuses on long-term investing, and so our subscribers do as well. The biotech market, from the stock market perspective, sometimes it can be a little bit crazy. It's really challenging for people who aren't necessarily part of this industry to understand what's going on. And I know that you have a drug that went through FDA approval, and have an experience with that. I don't know if you'd like to share, but just like helping people who are outside of the industry understand the industry from a market perspective.
No, it's a super question. I mean, I guess my philosophy, you can agree to disagree. I think the first thing you said about I think the biotech industry is a long industry. It's a hard, meaning a long bet. My personal opinion is, these models take a while to develop. I don't think we're not like an over-the-counter business. Let's compare my launch to, say, I worked in Neutrogena for a lot of years, so I reported in the head of Neutrogena. So if they want to launch a product, right, they go out, develop it. There's no regulatory process. They do great advertising, great formulation. But from idea to market could be 6 months. And then, they turn on their TV commercials and their sales could be rocketing in less than a year. Less than a year. I mean, that's incredible. Our business takes a while to develop. I mean, we've got to introduce our product to the doctors. Like, consumers just can't walk in and buy our product twirl off the shelf. There's got to be somebody called a doctor who feels comfortable, and doctors don't want to just start writing drugs that they don't have experience with. And, so almost by definition, we're a long-term investment, and then there's just not a lot, like, we don't have a lot of noise or milestones, generally, we don't have a lot of catalysts, along the way. So I think investors have got to be, I think, a little bit patient with these biotech companies. And, and I find the institutional investors are much longer, right? They understand it. So, so it's really, I think it's a challenging industry to play short-term investing on, because the milestones don't come by very often, and they kind of come and go so quick, and so it's almost a hard industry to bet on in the early stages, like ourselves, so I think people that buy like a stock in an Agile almost have to know where we are in our journey and kind of be able to use our metrics and see what a win really looks like, versus say, I don't know, an Amgen who's much more developed, right? And you could look at them more, as a fundamental stock and saying, well, they earn so much EBITDA and things like that. So our metrics are a little fuzzy. So it takes a little bit of patience as an investor, but the upsides can be enormous, though, right? That's if you bet on a more mature stock, the upsides are generally incremental, right? You can say, hey, I earn 15%, 20% a year, and I outperform the indexes. In a biotech, you catch the right one, you can. If you were patient and hung around for a couple of years, you can catch 3x, 5x. You can catch a really fun ride. And then the other thing investors think about too with our space, and is are we going to consolidate? Is somebody going to acquire us? Because we do run the field of dreams. If you build it, hopefully they'll come. I mean, part of the appeal of biotech is, hey, a big guy or big woman can come and take you out. And that's part of our thesis. I mean, we got to call it for what it is. But what I've seen is that buyouts aren't happening as fast. Big pharma is saying, you just run those little companies for a while, do all the heavy lifting, and I'll buy you later. And I'll pay you a lot of money later. But I think we're having to stay around a lot longer. So that's got to go into an investor's thesis. So that's a complicated model, I think, that investors have just got to dig into to understand the industry, understanding the space we're in, understand the specific stock. And almost by definition, by the time you do a diligence, you're going to be a long-term investor anyhow, because it takes a while. So, that's part of the trick with biotech. So I think the funds that are long, that understand the dynamics, I think ultimately win, because they're patient. They're a little bit more patient. They can hang around and get to that big payout, and when the drugs really do unlock.
Mm-hmm. Nice. We talk a lot about people looking at the market daily. There's always this chatter about like this stock's up, this
I know.
Yeah, right.
It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
Me too. And I like on my watch, I'll get this, alert. And I'm just like, I don't care, the way my approach is, I do the diligence. I look, I have my thesis, and, as long as things, go, I don't think about it. And so I wonder, as the CEO of Agile Therapeutics, does that influence you at all? I mean, I couldn't imagine the level of stress some days.
It's tough. I mean, my typical day, maybe a day in my life, I start up with a nice cup of coffee, and I'm like, I flip back and forth between a news channel and Squawk Box. First thing I look at is, what's my day going to be like? Because the macros, if something's bad in the big picture, it usually hits these young companies hard. So from a beta, when we were taught beta, right? So bad news hits us hard. So if the market's down 5%, we could be down 20%. There's an amplification on the downside. And on the upside, we don't generally participate in the upsides as much. So if it's a red day, I'm going to have a bad day. I know it's going to be a bad day. So I think I wish I could tell you I'm more mature, but I'm not. I look at the macros, because I just got to be ready for what my day is going to be like. I tend to look at my peers. I look at the other stocks in my class, and is it just me? Is it going on? So I try to look at that and saying, is this? And look what we saw this year. There's in mid-February 15th, I don't know what happened, but there's just a mass exodus out of the small biotech stocks. Small and mid-cap got crushed, and we got crushed harder. So the money just moved out of small biotech. So now, so part of our stock is us, our execution, but a hard part of it's an overall macro environment. So my job is to understand the macros and saying, okay, what's the market, what's me? So I think, so for me, I got caught in the downdraft of the macros. And look, our product got ahead of us. I mean, the expectations of our product, people thought we were going to put up more numbers faster. And we never gave guidance. So shame on me. That got ahead of me. So we've been battling of trying to say, look, we're on plan where we wanted to be. So that's my typical day. I wish I could tell you I could put away and don't look at it. Unfortunately I do. but I try to be big picture. I look at the big picture and then I'll say the class. And then, I was taught when I was at J&J, just look at yourself in the mirror. And if you feel good at running your business, then don't care about your share price. I feel great. I feel great. And I feel like we're doing the right things. And, long term, we're doing the right things. And, would I like to see our stock price better? Sure, I would. Sure, I would. But first and foremost, I got to be happy with myself in the morning that my running this business thoughtfully for the long term. And I am. I feel great about it. And I feel like we got a growing brand and we're doing great. And we're on a journey. We're on a journey. And so far, so good.
That is wonderful. Yeah, and it sounds like you're on, a great journey, and you've kind of positioned yourself to, grow into it. You've done that work to kind of determine, what you guys want to be when you grow up, or at least, create some options.
Mhm.
Because, like as a teenager, you don't necessarily know what it is that you want to do, and you have that ability to change. And your name says it all. Just that agility to be able to kind of, pivot and adjust and grow, and listening to your market and your consumers, to be able to do that.
Yeah, and like the big picture, like if we had this conversation 10 years ago, I would have said there's 20 big pharmaceutical companies that are interested in women's health. The sad part is they're not. There's maybe 5, so, the pendulum swung from the big companies, like at the time when I was at J&J running this field, they got not interested in this. It's a shame for women, so the pendulum swung back to the little companies like ourselves that are trying to create new products and things like that. I think this, the more we're successful, I think we'll get back on the radar of these big companies. And, I think the field needs to have some big and little companies. The little companies are more innovative. The big companies can sell better. So I think there needs to be more of a, I think that it needs to come back to center. So it whipsawed from all big to all little now. So I think it's got to come back. And hopefully we'll be part of that, so I think hopefully we're one of the leaders. And right now, market's talking to us. We got to launch this product and show everybody that we know what we're doing, and then,
Yeah.
then we'll let the chips fall where they may with the big companies, or stay out here and continue to develop this company.
Yeah. It sounds like you're taking a great approach. And I look forward to seeing where your journey leads.
Well, thank you, Dana. It was fun. Every day's an adventure.
Yeah, I like
Thank you
that.
for reaching out to us. So we enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, no, it was lovely. Thank you so much. All right, well, thank you. So our conversation with Altomari, from Agile Therapeutics. I am Dana Abramovitz, 7 Investing Lead Advisor. We're here to empower you to invest in your future. Thanks for watching.